my personal YouTube channel. So did everyone get the notification that this is being live streamed? Hi, Amy. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Tina. Claudia.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
And I would like to welcome everyone to Women's Entrepreneurship Day, Rhode Island. We are here virtually, although several people gathered in person at the Norman Bird Sanctuary this morning at 10 a.m. Sandra, I think you might have been able to join that, so would love to hear how that went for our in-person connection. And then at Innovate Newport, they will also be live streaming the Global Women's Entrepreneurship Day celebration, which is today, November 19th, 2021. And there's free co-working for people who are participating at the Birdwalk or who want to watch the live streaming at Innovate Newport. And everyone is welcome to join here from this 12 to 2 p.m. Networking interactive. No agenda. I kind of think of this as an unconference today where we can guide the discussion based on what we're looking to get out of our connections here. Give everyone an opportunity to introduce yourself, what Women Entrepreneurship Day means to you, what impact you'd like to see in the next year, and hopefully we'll have a big in-person gathering with a proclamation next year. So this is really kind of the linchpin year, I think, with COVID last year causing us to do a virtual session in partnership with Innovation Studio. And next year, hopefully we'll be able to gain more sponsorships and again, have an in-person and or a big hybrid gathering in Rhode Island next year. So I'd love to have everyone go around and introduce themselves and say a few words. And I really appreciate Sabina, Lieutenant Governor of Rhode Island, joining. So would love to give you the floor first to introduce yourself and say a few words.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to join this great panel to have this conversation about entrepreneurship. And I'm so glad to have this conversation. This is something that is very close to my heart. I believe that entrepreneurship is what creates wealth in our community and also for all females, for women. And I want to thank you for the work that you do and to bring the message out there. The Office of the Lieutenant Governor, we always in support of the small business community. Is part of the areas that we are have under the umbrella of the Lieutenant Governor. I have been a supporter of the small business community since I was a member of the Providence City Council. And I know that when you decide to put your heart and soul into starting a new business, a new venture, it takes a lot from you and from your families, especially for females. And we want to let you know that we're here to listen and to find solutions to the challenges that you're having. The Office of the Lieutenant Governor is available to help you navigate the different departments of the state of Rhode Island. So it's truly an honor for me to be here with all of you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Sabina. And what I'll do is I'll have people introduce themselves. I'll call on you in order of how I see you on my screen. But again, this is an informal conversation, so feel free to jump in if you have a question for what somebody says. And like I said, if you have to step away, grab a bite to eat, turn off your camera, do whatever makes you comfortable. So I see Lisa, and Lisa, thank you for being a co-host and for joining. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Lisa Foster, and my background is in talent development. So really my sweet spot and what I do for consulting is between hiring and onboarding. So, and a little bit of learning development. I used to head up executive search for CVS Health. So that's where I learned my background. I have my background. So nice to meet all of you.
And Lisa, you're still involved with SCORE, right?
I am. I'm a SCORE mentor and volunteer. I'm on about 5 nonprofits. So yes, and I also assist people who are in career transition with no support. So kind of as a give back.
Yes, and as Lisa just put her LinkedIn in chat, feel free to add your LinkedIn link and URL and put in any contact information there as we love to network with each other as well. And the next person I see on my screen is Teresa. So Teresa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Let me just mention at first a little bit about my background. I have an interdisciplinary background between the hard sciences and the natural sciences. I did my undergrad in geology and geophysics at Yale, and then did a master's degree in the atmospheric sciences, studying global warming, actually. And so I've had a career that kind of spans both sustainability, but also more simply for-profit aspects. And I wound up working for the insurance industry as a quantitative risk manager, using my science background to make connections between global warming and community assets. So I guess what I'm looking for is I'm hoping to reawaken my career in sustainability, hopefully right here in Rhode Island. So I'm looking for any and all leads or suggestions as to how to reawaken a career in sustainability.
Thanks for introducing yourself, Teresa. And just so everyone is prepped to introduce themselves, the order I see people in is Jivanya, Anne-Marie, Elaine, Amy, Sandra, Tina, Claudia, Irina, Tuni, Trudy, and Johanna. And if anyone else jumps in, they can join in later. And I do like to take a screenshot of people. If you're willing to turn on your cameras and smile, we can do a room photo op at some point as well. So, but before we do that, Jivanya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Awesome. Thank you, Janice, for having me. I'm Jivanya Allen. I was born in Philadelphia, but I was raised in Providence. And I currently live between Rhode Island and North Carolina. I am in North Carolina right now. I am the current executive director for Classical High Schools Alumni Association. I went to URI, I got a bachelor's in psych, and I have a master's degree in education. I recently self-published my first book called The Introvert's Guide to Becoming a Master Networker. It is on Amazon. I'm really, really excited about that. And I also do some business consulting. I have a sidearm called Start, Stay, Scale with Jivanya. So I like to help people start businesses, stay in business, and scale businesses. And I'm also the founder of Twisted Networking, which is an internationally recognized business networking organization, it's introvert friendly. We were in person, but now I am fully virtual, and I've had attendees from Sweden, Malaysia, the UK, all over the world. And so I'm really into networking. I love to meet new people. I see some familiar faces on here. So thank you so much for having me, Janice.
Thanks for joining. And I had met Jivanya through the Rise Women's Leadership Conference that just happened last month as well, or this month, I think, and it's happening again next September, an annual conference for women leaders here in Rhode Island. So it's really great to kind of make those intersections and connections across different ecosystems. Anne-Marie, would you like to go next?
Sure. I was busy getting on LinkedIn. Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Vandenherk. I am a cybersecurity champion for small businesses. How I got there was I was hacked as a small business owner. And it set me on the path to how do small businesses, particularly very small micro businesses, solopreneurs, deal with getting hacked. So here I am. Let's talk about cybersecurity. My favorite topic.
Yes, that's always something. Prevent risk or manage risk.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be scary. So I'd like to meet people and talk about it.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Elaine?
I'm Elaine Dixon, and thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you on screen. And Tuni, sorry your camera's not working. I love seeing your face. So I run Mavenly Consultants, which I do the full gamut of business services. I provide DEI consulting work. I do strategy, finance, and accounting. I like to say I use my whole brain, both the creative as well as the non-creative side. And that's also been my corporate experience that I've worked a range of jobs. So I've done consulting for the last 20 or so years, and decided to take a break a few years ago, and I'm back at it again under a new name, and excited just to be networking and meeting folks. I'm also a certified fraud examiner, so I do a lot of risk work as well, Anne-Marie, so that touches my heart deeply to hear about sort of your experience, because I do live in the cyberspace as well. So happy to meet all of you and looking forward to getting to know a lot more of you.
Thanks, Elaine. Amy, I have you on next.
Hi, everyone. I think I know many of you. I'm Amy. I'm with Innovation Studio, formerly Venture Cafe Providence. And we are working to revamp kind of our whole program, but our strategic goal and our home base is that we want to connect everyone with an idea for a business to the resources they need to grow, no matter what stage of business they're at, and no matter what language they speak, what community they come from. Everyone in Rhode Island who has an idea has the capability to be an entrepreneur, and we want to help them get there. So that's what I do, but my real passion is community building and making connections. And I am a introverted networker, and so I would love to get your book, Giovanna. I did see you at Rise, and I did not stop at your table because I was juggling childcare issues as well, but would love to read it. So please drop your link, and I'll put my link in the chat, and I'm just so happy to see all of you.
Yes, and speaking of childcare, that's definitely an issue women entrepreneurs, I think, in particular, have challenges with at times. So we'd love to chat about what issues we're facing and how we can address them as well as part of our kind of discussion. Sandra, I see you next.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Enos. I'm Gifter-in-Chief and CEO of Giving Beyond the Box. We've been in business for a couple of years, and we've put together curated gift boxes with items from Rhode Island-based social enterprises or women-owned businesses. We have a box that featured Rhode Island-based businesses of color, Providence-based artists, and Rhode Island-based farmers. So we really do focus on businesses and nonprofits and social enterprises that give back. Most of our products are from local producers, but not all of them. As I said, we've been in business for about 2 years. We've sold about 1,000 boxes and partnered with 50 different organizations and given hundreds of consumers and customers the opportunity to give a box that really has, gives back to the community. So if you're passionate about, women, for example, women's causes, we have a box of our own that features women-owned enterprises. There's chocolate in here and solar lanterns from Luminade and soap, tea from some local Black-owned businesses. So that's our business. I'm a sole practitioner here, and do everything as many of you do, and really have been trying to be deliberate about, we build boxes, but we say, to echo somebody else, that we really build bridges, to organizations that are also really focused on my key issue at this time in my life. I'm a retired sociology professor, is to build an economy that's more inclusive, more generative, and more sustainable. That's the business we really want to be in. So thank you. I'm delighted to be here with the rest of the panelists.
Thanks for joining, Sandra. And I think you nodded your head and said you were at the bird walk. And I see Sue McDonald has joined as well, and Noreen. What we're doing is going around and introducing ourselves in order: Irina, Johanna, Tina, Claudia. Now it's Sue, Noreen. Trudy, and Trudy, you're last. If you want to turn on your cameras, when everyone has their camera on and is smiling, I am going to take a quick screenshot of our session. So if anyone else wants to do a photo op right now, fix your hair or whatever it is that you do on Zoom. I'll count down 3, 2, 1. Oh wait, I have to do I use the snipping tool, and then I also have the print screen. Or you can hold up your phone and take a picture of the screen too. So I'm not a professional photographer like they had at Rise, but looking forward. And if you don't want to be on camera, yes, you can turn off your camera as well. So, but would love to see faces. Give me 1 second. Okay, I think I have everyone now. And again, feel free to share, post on social media, #WeDo2021, #Rhode Island, since most of us are here in Rhode Island. I know, Irina, I think you're not in Rhode Island, but we've connected through the Black Hire event. And that's, I think, supporting people around the world, and like Giovanna going in and out. I mean, I think we're all connected. So Irina, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, thank you for having me. And I really appreciate Janice for connecting me. I've never been to Rhode Island, but now I have an excuse to come visit you guys. I'm Irina. I am Malagasy American based here in Baltimore, Maryland. I am the founder of Mata Living, a modern digital publication focused on life, culture, and living in Madagascar. Um, I grew up in the States, so I didn't really have a gauge for what life was like in Madagascar. And I had the opportunity to go back in 2019 to complete a volunteer project teaching English and business development and entrepreneurship to a small village outside of the capital. And from there, it became my call to action to figure a way to connect the world to Madagascar. So it's been a journey. We launched in January, so we're still a young startup, but we're finding our way to reach a wider audience, to learn about Madagascar, connect our diaspora that's around the world, as well as find people who want to travel to Madagascar, connect to Madagascar and the larger Pan-African diaspora to all build a bridge together. So that's me.
I wonder how many people from Madagascar are in Rhode Island if we have those stats.
Yes, I'm sure we have some students who went to Brown, and I'm sure we're all over the place. You'll find us in any corner, as it is with a lot of diaspora. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Serena. And the order has changed on my screen because people turning on and off cameras. So I now see Johanna next, and then Claudia, Sue, Noreen, Tuni, Tina, and then Trudy. So again, feel free to jump in. If you just want to jump in, you don't have to go in order. If I don't call on you, you can raise your hand, and very informal networking right now. So Johanna, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Janice, and thank you for organizing this great event and for inviting me. My name is Johanna Mendez-Petrarca, and I am part of Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos' team. The Lieutenant Governor, as she stated, is very much invested in helping small businesses. And our office truly serves as a connector, connecting small businesses with different directors and different state agencies. She also heads the Small Business Advocacy Council, which we recently reconvened, where both members and non-members can attend and have direct access to directors. For example, the director of the Department of Labor and Training, the Secretary of Commerce. And what we have found during these meetings is that folks are really eager, because sometimes they may try on their own to get through to these directors and they may not get a response right away. But at these meetings, they have direct access to them, which helps to answer some of the questions and some of the issues that they may be confronting. So thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to hearing from everyone.
Thank you, Johanna. Claudia?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here this afternoon. My name is Claudia Cornejo, and I am with the Rhode Island Foundation. I have been with the foundation now for about 8 years, but I am I consider it a new role because I started last year during the pandemic, so I still consider myself very new in it. I am the new grant officer for economic security. So we do focus a lot on small business and workforce development. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Thanks for joining, Claudia. And last year we had panels around nonprofits as well, and public and private partnerships. And I do think the support of the government and foundations are essential to the growth of startups and nonprofit organizations as well. Sue, I would love to hear how the walk went, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I am Suzanne Mcdonald. I used to be a journalist. I had left the Boston Globe almost 15 years ago after spending 15 years in daily newspapers. And I am a marketing solutionist. I work with small, mid-sized businesses to give them the results that they are looking for with the budgets that they have to work with. And I also have worked with global clients looking to come into the US market. I am also the founder of Newport Interactive Marketing, networking learning community, which has been around we're going into our 12th year. And we bring speakers, marketing experts, and put them in touch with other professionals and peers, and have a really great community built around Newport Interactive Marketing. We actually have an event coming up on the 30th. So November 30th, it's all about perfecting your online presentations. And that's virtual. We are virtual through the end of the year and probably, realistically speaking, until springtime when we can open up windows, things like that. But there's silver linings in that, an event like this, everybody's strong across the state. So now we have the opportunity to get together and network this way, which I love. And then this morning's walk was great. We just very quickly pulled it together. Janice had approached me and Molly through Innovate Newport, and Molly, we were just, bashing around ideas like, what can we do? And it's like, well, let's do a walk at the bird sanctuary, which is conveniently 5 minutes from my house. And it was a great walk. We had, I think, 8 of us. Is Sandra still here? And oh yeah. So how many? There were about 8 of us, I would say. Something like that. And yeah, great little walk. Got to hear a little bit about the bird sanctuary, which is an amazing resource. It's was founded by a woman in 1949, I believe, and it has a woman, female executive director, big staff team of women doing some great work. They do summer camps and are a wildlife preserve as well. And so we're hoping to do that more often this afternoon. If you can join us at 2:00, Innovate Newport is going to be streaming the main programming, the global programming, probably from like 2 to 3, because I think because it's a Friday, they're going to be jettisoning out. So I don't want to overpromise what's going on over there, but I'm going to pop by for a little bit. I do have a child who only this week got her first shot. So I've been very conservative. And then my other activity is that I'm co-founder and board president of C. Rose Montessori School, and am very involved with following Rhode and CDC recommendations and setting guidelines for the school. And fortunately, we have had no school cases and have been able to be open nonstop since July 2020. And so I'm a firm believer in best practices, and they work. You just need to use them. And I have to follow my own guidelines. So I'll just pop in and say hi with my mask and kind of get things started if anybody wants to come by later. Okay, I said enough. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue. You're one of those superwomen. I think, Sandra, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say being outdoors for a walk was just a wonderful way to network without wearing heels. It was just wonderful. So thank you for organizing that.
And I think it would be great to figure out how we can have ongoing sessions and meetings, whether it's in person or virtual or hybrid. Tuni's raising her hand. So I think, this is once a year we celebrate Women's Entrepreneurship Day as a global kind of movement. But every day is Women's Entrepreneurship Day, as our founder, Wendy Diamond, says. And so it's really celebrating us together and supporting us on an ongoing throughout the year. And Sue did a great job gathering everyone at this bird sanctuary. I think next year we were thinking about doing hybrid lunches all around the state, but not enough time to really prepare this year. So that may be something to consider next year, as I know different pockets of people may not be able to travel as much, but want to meet in person. So thinking about like a hub and spoke event for next year's Women's Entrepreneurship Day as well. And having sponsorship dollars go toward supporting nonprofits like the Bird Sanctuary, as well as women and girls, alleviating poverty and finding ways that we can uplift everyone through the umbrella foundation, but also thinking about the local efforts. So I see Noreen and Tuni, and then Tina and Trudy, I think, are the ones who haven't introduced themselves yet. So Noreen, you want to jump in?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm super excited to be part of this conversation. I'm Noreen Emjen. I'm a federal funding specialist advisor. I help startups and entrepreneurs to get federal funding. So part of my kind of interest also is to help as many women founders as possible to get this federal funding, because historically women getting very low percentage of venture capital money. So that's kind of like one of my missions, to help as many women as possible. So I'm super excited to be among with this incredible women. So looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Noreen. So the T's, Tuni, Trudy, Tina. Tuni, you want to jump in?
Sure. So in typical entrepreneurship fashion, my internal camera, after how many thousands of hours of video, Amy, right? It died last week, but I've been so busy working on business development that I haven't had a chance to buy an external. So if it's a little awkward, it's because I literally was just setting it up as I was dialing into Zoom. Thank you for putting this together. This is awesome. What a great way to spend a Friday afternoon. And I am Toonie Shartner. I refer to myself as Rhode Island's economic gardener. I made a decision over a decade ago now to use whatever tools, talents, and skills I have to do my part to help grow the Rhode Island economy. So I believe that together we are stronger, and this is a great way to celebrate that. And I'm a serial entrepreneur that is very passionately focused on helping small businesses in Rhode Island. I've been doing it for decades, even while owning my own businesses. So I have a small business consulting practice, Toonie Shartner Consulting, LLC. And I also sometimes am pulled to do fractional leadership roles, like getting Innovate Newport open as the inaugural director, and recently as the executive director for District Hall and Venture Cafe Providence, where I had the distinct pleasure to work with Amy Erickson almost every day. And now I'm back at my consulting practice and expanding it and excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue to lean in and help the small businesses. I do a lot of volunteer work, and I historically and continue to try to use my volunteer work in the innovation and startup space and focus my consulting practice on small businesses, although I do a lot of volunteer work with small businesses too, because I believe you can't build an innovation economy without strong communities, and small businesses are the backbone of strong communities. And we have a lot of small businesses here. So I love what I do. I love working with many of you on this call. In my firm, I've always pulled together best-in-class experts on a team based on each of my client or project's individual needs. So I've often worked with Suzanne, and Anne and I are going to be working together, and hopefully Elaine and many more. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Toonie. And I see Trudy next. If you can unmute yourself.
Yes,
Great.
thank you. And I have to say, I am blurred my background, but I am in Texas. So I'm not in Rhode Island at the moment. I'm in Texas visiting, and thank you for the opportunity. I am a learning experience. My company is a learning experience designers. And as Janice knows, my passion and my experience and currently my education is focused on developing learning skills in adults. I do believe there's a bias and of where our learning skills are. We learn them in a very structured academic environment where people told us what to learn, how long we were going to learn it for. And now you put us in a work environment where it's complex, it's unstructured, and we're expected to be able to be a self-regulated learner. So my dissertation, which fingers crossed, I will be defending the first or second week of January, and it is on metacognition, simply said, learning skills. So learning is my passion for adults, and both as they're developing their careers, getting back into maybe academia, but also in the corporate world and what the restrictions are with that. But I also have an additional passion that goes along with being a woman in ed tech, which is very, very male dominated. And I do spend a lot of my time trying to have conversations with very young gentlemen and sometimes very old gentlemen who don't always want to listen. I had one conversation this morning. So that is one of the things in working in a very male dominated type of industry and really developing very strong women's presence and what we can contribute to that. The other thing is the use passion, you can tell is from the color of my hair, is that I am more and more getting more and more concerned the whole concept of ageism, and that is the challenge. I think it was interesting as I was going through the airport, because I have gray hair, somehow I'm, unable to take care of myself or unable to do the things. So, and just reading a very interesting study for all of us who are aging, and that even in a very young generation who don't believe in a strong, they have anti-racist views, anti-sexist views, ageism is not a problem for them. They still have this very, very deep misunderstanding of what goes on in aging. So I've got and it ties in beautifully with learning. And I have to admit, and sometimes we'll proudly say, and I'll say it to this group, I'm going to get my doctorate a month before my 71st birthday. So crazy woman that I am, but that kind of supports my passion about education and my passion for getting older the way I want to get older. And thank you, Janice, really appreciate it. I love to work with you. You're really great. And thank you for inviting me here.
Thanks, Trudy. And I appreciate your sharing your age as well. I think you have more energy than many of us who are, decades younger than you, and really appreciate everyone for joining. Tina, I don't think you've introduced yourself yet. So why don't you go ahead, and then we can continue on with our kind of group conversations.
Yes, good morning, everybody. For all those who don't know me, know I'm very quiet and shy, so I'll try to step out of my comfort zone for a moment. But I am Tina Pedersen. I run my own nonprofit called RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, all about inclusion and accessibility for the disability and the elderly communities. We marry each other, we matter, we can make a difference in this world. And anybody who knows me for 5 seconds knows nothing stops me. I will find my way into any business, any official's office, or any place that I can raise awareness positively and in a good way, giving real world solutions of how to do it, about becoming affordably accessible, because there's no business or organization or nonprofit that is going to open to be successful that is not going to interact with the disability community. We are the largest minority in this country, with the minority in this country that does not discriminate on age, race, wealth, anything. And we're also the only minority in this country that anybody at any time can join. So raising awareness and making it important. What people don't realize is in just 2 short years, all of our baby boomers are going to stop being 60 years and older. Most of them, 45% of them, identify with using a mobility device either temporarily or permanently. But they're not considered disabled. They're only called elderly that happens to use a mobility device. You take that number with the 17% of the disabled community that uses mobility devices, you're talking about half of the country's population will be using mobility devices by 2030. If you're not talking about accessibility and opening your businesses now, it's not going to happen. I am a public speaker. I go out and positively give you great ideas, and we're all about breaking barriers. The biggest barrier that RAMP makes is we don't charge for anything that we do. You like what we do, we benefited your business, give us a donation of any size to keep us running, but we don't put a price tag on learning about accessibility and inclusion, because we want everybody to take it in. Like, just think about all of the holiday events that you're going to be joining this season, Christmas tree lightings or outdoor events or Christmas parties. Do you know if a spouse of one of your workers uses a mobility aid or is elderly or having a hard time moving around? Don't you want them to be included? Don't you want them to not experience? Call us up. We will come and evaluate your area, your business. Will tell you how to set it up, so that way, no matter who shows up with what ability, they will be able to pop right in, join right in, and blend in with everybody else. So those are some of the things that I do. I'm also about breaking barriers. I was so honored the other night to receive the inaugural Christiana Bannister Award for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That was really cool. And over the weekend, I've been competing with 75 women across Southern New England for the regional title of Mrs. Southern New England, and I was honored to win that title this weekend. As the only person of disability, I will be able to go out to the national pageant in Florida if I can raise enough money to get out there and bring that title home to Rhode Island, and just breaking another barrier that people in wheelchairs. I've had over 4,700 hours in community service. It's not something I make time to do. It's something that's just in my DNA. I will help out anybody. I will work with any business, any organization in trade, because like I said, we don't have a budget, so we have no money. But I will help promote you. I have a live Wednesday night podcast that's seen by over 500,000 people every Wednesday night. I would love to have each and every one of you on it. You can go to my website and watch previous episodes. One of my favorite guests is on this call, Sabina Matos, our Lieutenant Governor. She is fabulous. She has been one of my favorite guests on my podcast, but we do resources, we do businesses. We want to promote you. And I just found out yesterday that I'm getting my own television program with a co-host that will be starting in January, that I will be able to promote all of you on my actual television show and all of the businesses that you're promoting, because I truly believe 100% we are stronger together, and no one and none of us are going to exceed without each other. We all know a guy. We live in Rhode Island. Let's face it. We all know a guy. We all know a woman. We all know somebody who can get the job done. So let's work together. Let's make it happen. And let me promote the crap out of you, so that way we can get everybody to know how fabulous you all are, because listening to your stories meant everything to me. And I cannot wait to connect with each and every one of you. So now I'll go back to my quiet and shy act and let others speak.
I wouldn't believe you were quiet, Tina. You had a great presentation. Thank you. And congratulations on your TV show, and appreciate your support. I was just thinking differently abled and the elderly are so often marginalized. And so thinking about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging as a core issue for women entrepreneurs as well. And I just turned on the transcript. I had meant to have this on the whole time, but there's certainly people with different ability in terms of hearing and seeing and visual and, wheelchair, physical, mental, everything. So really making sure we're inclusive. And Judith Human is actually going to be
all of your walking events. When you're having all of your walking events in the morning, I do 5 miles every day and don't lose a pound, so I can teach you all how to do that. I have extra wheelchairs you can all borrow, but I'd love to roll along with you, and I can still join in as long as the path along the way is fully accessible. I would love to join in any way I can.
Yeah, I would love to.
I'll just pop in real quick and say that I think that the bird sanctuary had made a lot of upgrades to their trails, so that not all of them, because there's terrain, but they do have some portions of their trails that are all accessible. So shout out to them for making that happen, and because that is important.
Yes, and I just wanted to point out that Judith Human will also be speaking at the Global Summit this afternoon between 2 and 4:30. And she was a pivotal aspect of the Disability Act. There was a Netflix show, Crip Camp, that she was on, highlighted in. So feel free to pop in and connect with her as well during the Global Virtual Summit. She was also featured last year. So, yep.
Was involved, and she is an amazing woman. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting her. She's an incredible person, but everybody should take the opportunity to watch Crip Camp. You can watch it on Netflix or on YouTube. It is funny. It's empowering. It makes you shriek a little bit, some of the things that they have gone through, but it gives you a good insight of where we still are in the 21st century, because unfortunately, people of disability are still getting locked away in nursing homes and in not institutions, but hospitals, because they don't know where to put us. We don't have a transportation system. 85% of Rhode Island is not wheelchair accessible. There are so many places that I can't go and be included, just for the fact that my legs don't work. My mouth sure does, trust me. So we need to open up more places so more people can be involved, and everybody can get interacted with this amazing community, because there's so many of us that do so much. We have a Providence police officer in Providence who he's been a police officer for 30 years, 15 of it from his wheelchair because he has MS. Full arrest powers, still does his full job from a wheelchair in Providence. So Rhode Island is a leading of the way. We are groundbreakers. That's why winning this title at the national level and bringing it home to Rhode Island is so important to me, because the top prize is a mission trip to one of 26 places around the country that I will get to go help rebuild houses or stuff. So to me, it's all about community service, but highlighting our mighty but wonderful state of Rhode Island is what's so important to me.
Yes, thank you, Tina. And Trudy had mentioned she has another meeting. She jumped off, but she'll come back on. So I know people have half-hour meetings, or if you want to, grab lunch, again, turn off your camera, feel free to pop in and out. And I'm sure others will join throughout the rest of our gathering. I would love to put up a poll right now for those who are here. And it is about our important goals. Let me know if you're seeing this poll. And these are goals that some of you had mentioned were important to you, and and I believe it allows you to choose multiple ones. So you can choose one or more, whether you're looking to thrive personally and professionally, make an impact. Yep, go ahead.
We're all panelists, so we can't vote.
Oh, you can't vote. Huh, interesting. Okay, I have never done this with panelists. So why don't I'll read out the thing, and you just put it in chat in terms of which one is most important to you, or a few of them if you want to. Thriving personally and professionally, making an impact locally and or globally, raising funds, reawakening your career, building community, connecting mentors and resources for women and supporting women entrepreneurs, gaining partnerships, accessing products, strengthening your network, increasing your client base, or anything else that's missing from the list. Feel free to, again, add it to chat in terms of what's most important to you right now. And then I'd like to open the floor to anyone to share like what they would want to group think on, or not group think, but like what do we want to workshop together in the next hour or so with each other, with this great group of women. What are some issues we want to discuss, like setting up a new business or a nonprofit in Rhode Island? I think most of us are established here, but if there are any issues that anyone wants to bring up and get feedback, or ask a question to someone specifically, I'm going to open up the floor to this group.
I mean, for me, hi, it's Anne Marie. For me, I'm new here to Rhode Island. I've only lived here 5 years. So I'm still getting and I live in Newport. So I'm like Suzanne, we're kind of on an island, literally. But I'm looking to form bonds, relationships, networks, a network with other women entrepreneurs. For me, I think that's so essential that we know about each other and that we can support each other. So I'm looking how do we kind of not institutionalize this, but make this more of a regular occurrence as women. How do we get together, problem solve, and move each other forward as a group? Because we're all kind of doing our thing, but I think together we can be much more stronger and move the dial for equality, equity. So that's something I've been bantering it around, and I'm glad Suzanne is on the call because I've been meaning to talk with her about how do we get either a monthly women's group going where we just meet and just chat and figure things out. Because I know for me, as a solopreneur, I'm sort of transitioning. Many years I was in public relations and marketing. Now I've transitioned into cybersecurity. So I'm sort of this weird thing. I'm myself, me, myself, and I. And it would be great to have a group of peers that I can help, and that can help me, sort of a sounding board. And so I need to talk to Suzanne about how do we do something like that here on the island, because I know there are tons of women entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs that are looking for a connection with others.
Well, I'll just pop in real quick and say that the Chamber does have a women's business group. And one of the things we talked about was doing the walk as a regular thing, and maybe try to do it once a month. It was beautiful out, even though yesterday was so nice. Today was perfect. It was nice and sunny. The bird sanctuary it has nice views, but it's actually fairly sheltered in there. So yeah, so, you know, do we bundle up and make those things happen on a more regular basis? Because I can hear, I hear you on the solopreneur piece, and it's interesting because two of my longtime good friends who I met through Newport Interactive Marketing, I mean, we've like had kids together, we've done projects together, all at the same time. I even actually had, which I think is going to be unique to women, we did a pilot project at URI. And at the time that the opportunity came up, I had just had a baby. So by the time the project got started, we had a 3-month-old, a 6-month-old, and a 1-year-old. And we would plan our meetings for like 3 hours. And like, the kids would just kind of be there. I mean, they were young enough that we could do it, but I thought that was a fairly unique approach to dealing with it, because it wouldn't have made sense for us to get babysitters. I mean, I actually physically could not do it because I was breastfeeding. So like we would have to go and have a client meeting, and we were teaching kids, mentoring college students how to do it. So we'd have to go and like do on-site, and then we merged into virtual. But like a friend of mine, would be taking care of my daughter, and I get a text message like, I'm running out of milk. So I'd have to like, all right, I gotta go. Kind of thing. And so I think that, for those reasons, it's really important for women and those connections and those bonds, I think are super important. But what you need to sustain that is the frequency, right? And the regularity of, hey, we're gonna do this. And I think, and also to do it in a COVID friendly way, to do it in an accessible way, to Tina's point, I think is really important. And just kind of make it happen, because if you don't schedule it, it'll never happen. One of the other topics that came up today on the walk was about self-care, and particularly with teachers. And that's been one thing that, as a small business owner, as a primarily solopreneur, I often say to people, and it's strange, right? Because I didn't become an entrepreneur until I was in my mid 30s. And now I find myself on the end of like, oh, I have a lot to share. Like I have a lot of wisdom and experience and hard-earned like battle scars. But one of the things that I like to say, especially to my interns and my students, is, if you want to go the entrepreneurship route, don't be the worst boss that you've ever had to yourself, because it's so easy to let that happen. And I think women fall into this trap more often than men. Men, will be like, wow, I can't do that. Like, I gotta watch Patriots or something. You know what I mean? But women would be like, I'm going to do the dishes and clean the house and listen and and so just to kind of keep in mind that self-care piece is really important. And I think also that we should take liberties to do things that are things that men wouldn't be interested in. Like think about the golf course, right? And not to say that women don't golf. I don't know how to golf, but like, why don't we create those opportunities for ourselves, do something that we like to do, and, do a little business while we're at it. So I'm looking forward to the post-COVID piece, because the Bodhi Spa, I don't know if they have one in Providence now, but it started in Newport, and I'm friends with the owners, just 2 sisters. And it's awesome. I mean, it's really great. The trick is that they like things to be really quiet. So it's like one thing that if you're going to go with one person and whisper, it would work. But I've done a lot before the pandemic. I would do that a lot with a friend who actually was part of this URI project, that we would go and like have like a self-care and chit chat day or afternoon and just things like that. So I would encourage us to think a little bit outside the box. Once we get past this COVID time, I think it's important. And we, obviously if there are men on this call, I don't think I'd be talking about my friend running out of milk for my baby.
And I would love to see those conversations become more, open, around, and really having men supporters is essential to this movement as well. And we did have some male panelists last year, and this was mentioned with the Men Who Get It panel at the Rise Women's Conference as well. How do we get more men in the room so that they are supporting and understanding, our perspective? And I'm just looking at chat. Giovanni says the Bodhi Spa is amazing, and Noreen is looking for a woman to play tennis with. So if you know any tennis groups, or I sometimes look on Facebook and see what people are posting as well. And that sometimes locally helps me find certain types of people.
Just to
Go ahead,
jump in,
Tina. Yeah, go ahead.
Wednesday night on my live podcast, we do live facials on Zoom. So I'm actually going to do a live facial, because the thing is when you're caregivers or you're a self-caregiver, or, you know, like you're nursing or something, you can't get out of the house, but this gives you an opportunity to be on Zoom with other people, other women, doing a facial, doing something that's good for you, doing something that makes good, and having those types of conversations while networking about other things. So if everybody wants to join in, you can book a self-care facial for yourself. We could do them once a month. You know what I mean? So you could do this call from your home, and have everybody included. Well, like I said, I'm going to go on live to 500,000 people with no makeup and nothing else to do a facial. So, hey, what the heck?
I love that, Tina. I did a facial on Zoom once and it was very fun. I think you have to have a.
That's something I have a connection that she's got all great, all natural products and stuff like that. And she's so funny to watch. So the facials are fun, but you know what I mean? Caring, but you can do it from your own home. You don't have to worry about the weather or leaving somebody or leaving your children, whatever. You can do it right from the comfort of your own home. But the other thing is supporting each other, inviting each other down to talk to different colleagues or talk to different connections that they have. I would love to come down, especially to Newport, and talk about accessibility, because, you know, the Sea Streak is so accessible. We have a boat that goes down there that's fully wheelchair. But once I get down to Newport, it's pretty hairy and scary about trying to find a place that's accessible. But if you go down there and you give them the tax breaks and you give them the reasons why in person, it works. So if we all work together and called each other up and invited each other to different events and different things that we have going on. Or what I also find works, if we make a Facebook group, that only the people in our group see what's going on in our group. So if something's going on or something's coming up, or we're having a fundraiser for somebody, we can support each other.
Yeah, having a Rhode Island Women's Entrepreneur Facebook group might be a way to do it. LinkedIn as well. And Elaine asked the question about how do we make getting together inclusive where distance, time of day, or other things do not become barriers? Because I know having this virtual session is excluding people who don't have a device. I'm you know, like not everyone has a network connection or is able to connect virtually either. So I would love to hear any input on, and Tuni, you have your hand raised. So if you want to jump in, and anyone else after you.
I was just going to say, since I've been back to my own business, I've been scheduling, reconnecting with a lot of people. Anne Marie was here. So if anyone's interested, you know, I do run a co-working space that's pretty casual and comfy and homey, and I'm always happy to host. So if any of you want to have a get together and maybe don't want to make it all the way over those two bridges, I'm kind of a central location. So I'm happy to offer the space to host. And I love walking meetings. And Tina, you and I definitely have to take the dogs for a walk. So I'll meet you anywhere, sister.
Oh, absolutely. And if anybody hasn't realized yet, I have a 190-pound Great Dane and an 80-pound pit bull that are 2 service dogs. So if anybody's okay with walking with them, because you're going to get lots of love and lots of kisses, you don't have a, they choose that. I'd love to take them along.
Yeah, and I think just thinking about location, centrally located is great, but there's also public transportation challenges and various income levels and different racial differences in Rhode Island as well. So thinking about all the different groups, part of me is thinking how do we understand the needs of different groups that aren't being included and be able to figure out a better time, a better place so that we can go to different places. And so that might be one thing, is thinking about cycling through different locations and partnering with nonprofits or other organizations that might be reaching different populations that I'm not reaching or that you're not reaching. So would love to hear any other thoughts on how we can.
As a person with disability who's left out a lot of the time due to inaccessibility, you're not going to be able to do something where you're going to handle everybody all at once. So it's going to be something where you're going to have different events and people are going to have to jump in where they want. It's great to try your best to be fully accessible in every event that you do, but you do have to understand that every event has a limit and every person is not going to be able to get to that event. I happen to drive with my hands. I'm fortunate enough to have a vehicle that I can drive, but there's a lot in wheelchairs that cannot drive and they can't use the buses in our state. So virtual works for them. There's people who don't have the internet. We just have to come up with a variety of different avenues and people can jump in where they can jump in. You're not going to be able to fix everybody at a event, and it's okay. You know what I mean? As somebody who's differently able, who's left out a lot, I'm telling you all that it's okay. As long as you have done your absolute best, it is okay if you can't make every event accessible for every person.
Yeah, that's good advice, that you can't do everything for everyone. And so we have to kind of pick and choose at times, but also figure out ways that we can create as many opportunities as possible. I think a couple other themes or issues I've heard on this call so far are being an independent or a solo entrepreneur and wanting to get support. And I'm also thinking raising funds. That was something mentioned, and curious if anyone here has raised funds or has grown a team and would like to share any advice in those areas, or are we all solo entrepreneurs still? Jabanya, go ahead.
So prior to COVID, Twisted Networking we were in-person events. And I was going to mention, I didn't think about accessibility until Tina actually came to one of my events. And I was thankful that I had picked a location that was accessible. And that's how we met in person. Twisted Networking was originally I started it because I didn't like the way networking was done. So I created my own system that I thought was great. 8 months into it, I had to have foot surgery and I did not want to stop what I had started. So I had asked one of the attendees to run my event. And that's when I realized that I had created a duplicatable system. And so I actually started selling the system. And right before COVID, I had 15 events going on in 5 different states. So when it comes to building a team, it's really, to me, it all begins with your network. Getting out to events, putting yourself out there, talking to people, sharing your challenges, being vulnerable. Suzanne mentioned about nursing. Those are real life things. And those are things that men need to hear about because it's real. Women need to hear about it. I think just getting out there, talking to more people, documenting your process is huge. I know a lot of people want to build teams or on board, but they don't even know how to explain what they do. So working more on your business than in your business has to also be something that as solopreneurs have to be more cognizant about, because we do get caught up in the day-to-day of serving our clients, but we don't really know how to succession plan for ourselves. So if something happened to Jabanya, who's going to run Twisted Networking? I have everything documented from nuts to bolts on how to even click on Zoom to run a meeting. And so those are some of the things that I think as a solopreneur. Now I'm the only one that run events because that was my choice. Managing people is a whole different ballgame. My goal is to be a business of one, honestly, and to work with other freelancers or other, virtual people in the virtual space, but making sure that you take time to work on your business and not just in your business is what's going to help you to grow a team and to ultimately stay in business long term. Because, if you don't have your plan in place and you don't know where you're going, you're going to burn out easily. And so to stay in business, I think, and to grow, you really need to network more. Meaningful networking, and also take time to work on your business by documenting your process and how you do what you do.
I mean, you are so right on that. I think that's something that some of us haven't done in terms of is the systems and processes having to do with your business. I know when I first started out, no one taught me how to run a business. I mean, I knew how to do the thing I did, and I did it really well. But only recently have I learned the importance of those systems and processes. and it's so enlightening. It has lightened me up to do other things that I need to be doing to grow my business. Once I just sat down and figured out, okay, these are my process. This is what I need. These are the systems I need to be successful. And I did it. And it's just like a weight has been lifted, and it's just like, boom, I feel like I can do anything now. And I know that sounds probably a little weird, but it's amazing how we're not, everyone has these, oh, you go through this, this, and this, but nobody really talks about the nitty gritty of this is how you do the Zoom, or, this is how you set up your Calendly. Here's your assessment for your client. I mean, that's a piece that's missing in a lot of how do you build your business in terms of like the true like building blocks that can really support your business as it grows. So spot on, right on.
Yes, I think just like we can't be everything for everyone, we also can't always be everything for ourselves either. So, some people are stronger at building processes and operations, and others are better at networking perhaps, or technology. And so being able to partner and find the right resources to help you grow in the right way is also something I think is an ongoing challenge for entrepreneurs who are starting out, is who's the right person to work with, or what are the skills that are missing on my team? How do you come up with those processes and operations to start out? Anyone? Oh, go ahead, Elaine, you want to share?
Sure, thank you. Such a timely conversation. I recently did a presentation at Innovation Studio actually on how to have finance be a strategic partner. And I think that the gist of that was, we can't wear all the hats, that, you have to know what you're good at and the rest you delegate. Also, we're also talking about burnout. But hearing Giovanna talk a lot about succession planning is such an important part of doing business as well. I just wanted to share briefly on my story. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't leave business school thinking this is what I'd do. And I was working in corporate at the time for one of the largest banks today. And actually, I'd gone back to work part-time, having had my first child, and was on a 10-hour day at the time when we got a call that I needed to go to the hospital. My son had been bitten by another child, and the daycare provider had covered it up the whole day. And it was now really bad, where he had this really swollen cheek, and, doctor was calling, do you know if the other kid had hepatitis? That's the time, but short story, my son ended up staying 3 days in the hospital just to get this rectified. But when I had to leave work that day and went to tell my manager, which was after 5, and we were prepping for, some communications to go to Wall Street, he was very upset. And he said to me, I guess someone needs to figure out their priorities, and the priorities was not my kid. And so next day I went in having figured out my priorities to quit my job and had no plan B. And so I certainly understand sort of the dynamics that force, some of us to think of, being an entrepreneur as an option. And some of us are just born to do that work. I certainly wasn't one of those this was my choice, born to, sort of have my own business. But now that I do, I certainly am grateful for the many ways in which I sort of be my own boss and create my own schedule. But I also want us to think of, especially for those of us that have employees, how important it is as a leader to have empathy, and to know that when employees are leaving work for a crisis, it's not that they don't know that what they have to do at work is really important. So I think it's really critical that as we think about the future of work, with all the upheaval we've gone through in the last year plus, that when we start to redefine what work looks like, that we're looking at all the ways in which we need to be able to show up, do our jobs, but still have leaders that are empathetic.
Love that, Elaine. Amy, you have your hand raised.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I know Elaine's story because we had it on Venture Cafe, but I wonder, for the rest of you, how many of you became entrepreneurs or left a role because of that empathy piece from leadership where you were like, I can't do this anymore, I need to strike out on my own? Like how much of an impact
sexual
did that have?
harassment.
Yeah.
How about losing your job for telling a major corporation that there was sexual harassment and you'd been harassed?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like, as you kind of go about your entrepreneurship journey, you're finding that you're owning your role, and can then pull up, we always talk about like, you rise by pulling up the people behind you, help support, rising tide lifts all boats, all these kinds of things. But like for so many women, and this is true, I think at all, across all class backgrounds and cultural backgrounds, you become entrepreneurs almost out of necessity because you couldn't find the right culture in your workplace, in your chosen field, and you couldn't rise above in that space. So, as we kind of think about building out teams and managing, as Elaine said, you have to be so empathetic and so nurturing to the point where you build that culture and get that what you want to see in the world. So hopefully we can change a lot more corporate cultures by seeing more women rise into those positions too.
Well, it's kind of interesting because it goes back to the Sheryl Sandberg, right? The lean in, that why do you automatically have to assume that you are, that you quit because I'm going to have a family? And there's a scenario where it's sort of self. But then the other part of it is, I have friends who are close friends, these like very close friends, who basically were driven out of the workplace when they were young children. And this is kind of going back probably anywhere from like 13 to 10 years ago. So maybe things have evolved, but I mean, ridiculous. They solicited professional attorneys, and the attorney said, go enjoy your baby, because these are Fortune 500 companies, major players, and they will outlawyer you and they will just drive you down. So take your package, go enjoy your baby. What the hell? So, and like these are high performing women. So I think that we talk about, for me personally, I knew that if I wanted to live in Rhode Island, because I was a journalist, I had been planning all along. I graduated from grad school. I went to work for the Herald News. I had lived in Newport. I knew I needed to make my way up to the food chain. I got up to the Globe and was living in Boston, and I was just waiting for my buyout to come, and it came. I took a voluntary buyout, the first one that was offered to me. But for about 8 years prior to leaving newspapers, I had been strategically educating myself. I audited an entrepreneurship class at UMass Boston. I did all kinds of things because I knew that, I'll just say it, I was making, the most I ever made at the Globe was close to 100 grand between overtime and stuff like that. My regular salary was about 80K. To take a job at a newspaper in Rhode Island was going to involve a much longer commute. I mean, it's difficult to commute from Newport to Providence. And I knew, okay, I'm going to probably split my salary in half to have my commute be like a half hour shorter. Working at the Projo, there's a lot of great people at the Projo. I've worked with those people, we're all in the same small world. But I knew that I had no choice, right? I had to start my own business because the salaries just were not commensurate, but the cost of living is commensurate. So when the Navy comes here, when they send people to Newport and Rhode Island, housing allowance is the same as Boston. So I think, what does that say? It's just, I love where Amy, has brought this, and Giovanna, like these are things that are reality, but I think aspirated because we don't have the employer base here. And I think but I tend to be a aligning person, right? Like, then we can't meet in person, but guess what? Like, now we're no longer geofenced. We can offer all types of options. So I think that is what's going to make a thriving entrepreneurial community. And I think that actually is better for everyone. I just wish that there was more, I guess, the access to, like Noreen was saying, access to equity. Those are important. I've also experienced since the pandemic, trying to work with some of these agencies who are like, we are driving entrepreneurship and we have these advisors and we have this, we have that, who basically dumped me when I couldn't meet their timelines because school. And guess what? Like, I run a school. So, it was just I was pushing really hard to get a lot done during the summer because I knew it was going to get really busy. And they kind of dragged their feet because it was summer. And they were like, let's just put this on hold because you don't seem to be responsive. And I was just like, okay, then whatever. So I think that, all these like little micro discriminations they add up. And it's not something I like to focus on, but I think we sort of have to deal with the reality that we're facing as well.
Like, I don't like to harp on but I mean, imagine having a passion and being so good at something. I mean, I've only been in a wheelchair for 7 years. I walked into a very minor surgery and suffered a spinal stroke on the table. In 7 minutes, my life changed. I went from being an active into everything to utilizing life from a wheelchair. But now I can't do my passion. I can't go to school. I can't go into a workplace for the mere fact that I just can't get in. Not because I can't do the work, not that I'm not capable of doing the work. So when you're disabled, you almost don't have a choice. If you want to be vibrant and out there, you have to be an entrepreneur because you have to prove to people that you can actually do the work, because there are more people who don't know me or will meet me for the first time. Like, you can't do that. And you can't do that. I was swinging a sledgehammer last summer and painting ceilings and redoing floors of my own Habitat for Humanity house that I built and put in over 2,000 hours myself in. If I could swing a sledgehammer and knock down a wall, I could do anything else that you tell me. It may not look the way that you think it's going to look, because obviously we have to become little MacGyvers. Now I'm aging myself because only some of you know who MacGyver is, but we have to be little MacGyvers to, access different things. But I look at all of the younger people behind me that have had car accidents or some kind of trauma, who can't go to college, who can't go to work for the mere fact that they can't get in. But what I think is, the COVID was a blessing because everybody was part of the disability community during COVID. You couldn't go out. You couldn't go to your favorite restaurant. You couldn't go to your family's houses. You couldn't do the things that you wanted to do. And everything that we've been told, you can't go to the doctors online. You can't go to work online. You can't do this online, all happened within a month. So it is possible and it is thriving. But on the other turn, we don't want to stay isolated. We don't want to just do it from video. We want to be out in the real world. We want people to see who we are, and we want to be taken along with you. So yes, it's an easier way to get things done and a good solution, but it's not the only way, because we want to be seen and heard and we want to interact. I love people. I want to be with as many people as I possibly can at all times, but I can't get in.
Sounds like there's that compounding effect of the gap for if you're a woman, and then if you're disabled, and it just adds on depending on the different factors that come into play. And Suzanne just mentioned also kind of that salary gap. And Tina, I think earlier you mentioned I have no money. And I think we as women don't talk money as much as men talk money, as far as I can tell. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but there's a gap in funding for women. There's a gap in salaries for women. And we saw last year with COVID how women were the ones being fired or let go or leaving. So I'd love to hear, how are we dealing with the money situation as entrepreneurs and as nonprofit founders? And Giovanna, raise your hand. Do you want to talk about money or something else?
Let's talk about the money. I have no problem talking about what I have and what I don't have. no problem with it. I remember having $2 in my bank account and lights getting ready to get shut off with 3 adopted sons. So I remember those days. But I wanted to ask a question. Did anybody on here apply for SBA money? Suzanne raised her hand. Lisa, did anybody get the SBA money?
Yep.
Suzanne got money. Lisa, did you get money?
No, because not having I had just closed a bank account, my LLC bank account, and then I was looking for another bank and I was caught between that. So no, they wouldn't give the money because of that. And also because in 2019, I had to have surgery. So I had taken a step back and I have a W-2 job. And so they didn't consider the W-2 role, which is it's a very flex role. So I do it part-time. They wouldn't consider that. So there was all these things that got in the way for solopreneurs. Okay. I did accidentally get very, very little, but something from unemployment that wasn't supposed to come. I guess, because remember at the beginning, they said everyone should get some. So it was pennies, but it was something. And so there's no way to even send that back because it was the wrong money, but it was really hard to get the money.
You might want to look into EIDL again. I didn't qualify for EIDL when it first came out, and then they've recently expanded it. Like recently is in like the summer or fall. And it's a longer because I'm reapplying, it doesn't make any sense, right? They changed the terms of the program. So then I applied what I thought it was under a new program. They denied it because I had already applied. I was like, this whole online system didn't even exist when I applied. So how am I supposed to know? So now I'm in this reconsideration queue, which is slow, but it's moving forward. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have to take out loans, but the interest rate on the loan is so low that I was like, it's just an insurance policy, basically. I don't know. I'm nervous about, I was just saying this morning on the walk, it was very challenging between helping to run the school and not knowing whether or not school was going to be open, because I really can't work with my child around. I mean, not well. So I was nervous about doing business development. And so I basically wasn't doing it. And guess what? I'm way off, way off. I went from 2020 going to be my best year to and I have a kid at home. What am I supposed to be doing? All my clients called me, by April 1st, done. Yep, we're on break. It took a while for money to come in, but guess what? Everybody's nervous still. It's hard to plan, and I totally understand that. And I've taken more of the approach of you just have to flow and not, do what you can. And I have a couple clients now, so that's good. But I just think, I don't know what it's going to look like this winter. I don't know if school's going to be open. I'm nervous about doing a lot of business development still. And, because what does that do? That just makes everybody crazy, right? I'm crazy because I can't do the work that I need to do. And I have a child. And then that client has a bad experience. So it's tough, but I can't, it's like hope for the best and plan for the worst. So you may want to look into EIDL again. And then I also have a local SBA guy who does reply. I have his email, so I'm happy to give that to you. He's really super nice and, can just sort of look in. I wouldn't even bother calling that 800 number. Those people have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Pretty much in my experience, I've talked to them 3-4 occasions. And somebody finally suggested, why don't you call the local office? And it takes a while for them to get back to you. But when you do talk to an expert who's involved with the process and not just the screeners, they are very helpful. It just takes a long time, but it's worth.
Can you post the information about that, Suzanne, to the chat with EIDL, as well as the guy you mentioned? You have his phone number or email address? Or
just connect with me on LinkedIn is the best way to do it. The EIDL information is widely out there, but I would feel kind of awkward about
just one-on-one
giving
if anybody
email address out. So if you need it, I'm happy to connect you. But I would say definitely apply first, right? I would say they're so inundated with inquiries and problem solving that do your application. It's fairly easy, all things considered. And then if you get denied, right, then bring them in, or if you have specific questions.
And Giovanna, you were mentioning SBA loans. Is that something you've found success with, or
Oh, you mentioned the EIDL, I applied last year and I just didn't, my business coach, I work with Urban Ventures in Providence, Ron Crossan, and Ron recommended that I apply. And so I applied and I got the $1,000 grant and I got a $1,000 loan. So $2,000 was great. COVID messed up Twisted Networking. So $2,000, I was fine with that. However, this year, as Suzanne mentioned, they were giving out more money. And Suzanne mentioned the word nervous so many times. And I find that a lot of people that I talk to are nervous about taking out money. However, big businesses take out money. You have to take out money to grow a business. And sometimes, you know, you do have to weigh the pros and cons, but a 3% interest rate versus 24% on your credit card, I think the 3% it is much better. And just to be transparent, they gave me $82,000 this year.
It's great.
2 years, it's going to be a $400 a month payment. I have a student loan that I took out. I have no problem with borrowing money to get where I need to go. I'm not advocating taking out unnecessary debt if you have other ways to build your business, but in the economy that we live in, the society that we live in, I don't think money should be a challenge. There's plenty enough money in the United States for all of us to get what we need. Sometimes we just have to find unconventional ways of going about getting what we need and eliminating those fears, because fears hold you back from going where you need to go. And so, like I put in the chat, entrepreneurship equals freedom to me. I'm not worried about the corporate ceiling anymore, them telling me I can't go to my son's school to read, I can't go on a field trip, I can't be sick. I decide what I need and how much of it that I need. And so to be an entrepreneur in America in 2021, to me, is just, it's a beautiful thing. And we can get anything done. I've raised 3 kids, you know, by myself, going through divorce and all this other stuff. So our mindset has to change. Our relationship with money definitely has to change, so that we can get what we need to get, because men are not scared to take out loans. Men are not scared to borrow money. They're not scared to talk about money, and they're not scared to, you know, share what's going on. And that's one of the things that I think women, we need to break down those barriers. And it only happens through conversations like this.
Yep. I ran executive search and things like that in companies. Bye, Toonie.
Hi, Toonie.
Good to see you. And, you know, women notoriously undervalue themselves. And I'm working with women in career transition, and a lot of it starts with ability and confidence, you know, understanding how to negotiate. And I think that's kind of where it was. I was watching something about underserved communities. My husband yelled at me, come in here, or something, some show he was watching. He said, you've got to see this. It was about 5 years ago. It really stuck with me, because we start to learn how to negotiate differently as women, to be nice and to do all these other things. And we say thank you when we get a job offer. And we don't really do a great job at negotiating. So that's something I'm passionate about. And I did a Instagram outside my comfort zone for Johnson & Wales. But something I'm going to probably start talking about with my friend Jennifer Sahadi more and more, about how to negotiate, because I teach people how to do it. I just don't do it really well for myself. That's the problem. It's hard.
Yes, and I see Trudy's back and raised her hand, and I was going to welcome.
Oh, sorry.
Trudy back and we were just talking about money, Trudy, since I know you were in another meeting, and how we get money. I know Renee also asked, you know, a question about how everyone was able to fund the early stages of their business, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, Trudy, as well as anything else you wanted to share.
And before Trudy starts, so Trudy, definitely ageism is a thing, and I witness it every single day. And a lot of the people that are in career transition that are, you know, 55 plus, the first thing they say to me is, I know I'm going to have to take a pay cut. It doesn't matter, men, women, all of them, everybody, doesn't matter race, gender. They just say that first thing to me and I'm like, no. But because they're so afraid of ageism.
Well, there is a reality to it, but part of the challenge, I was listening, I was listening to a sportscaster, and I'm going to use this as an example. Sports analogies are also good. By the way, one of the books I've got to dredge up again because it was one of the best books I read back in years ago was games my mother never taught me to play, and we never learned how to play poker, a lot of us. And if you can play poker, then you can negotiate. It was one of the best books I ever read. But I was listening to the sportscaster, female sportscaster, and they're talking about Tom Brady and Jones, okay, talking about the Patriots. And of course, everybody was naysaying about, wow, it wasn't really Belichick, it was really Brady, he was the one. And then they're saying, oh, no, now, well, guess what? Patriots have won 5-6 games in a row and blah, blah, blah. So, and then maybe, and the Buccaneers have lost, 2 or 3 games in a row. So maybe it's not, maybe, Brady's getting too old and all that. What was very clear to me, and this does relate to what we're talking about, is that whole understanding of experience and how you build expertise. And that the expectation is that somehow I walk out of the gate. And I think this is particularly a challenge for women because, and I think that's where we see ourselves as imposters, because either maybe we don't try to bluff it. We don't, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. And there's a whole thing about building your experience and understanding the value of every experience that you actually have. My undergraduate degree is in nursing. I practiced clinically for 10 years, and now I'm getting a doctorate in educational psychology and technology. Well, oh my God, that's a big difference. No, it's not. I can tell you that a lot of things that I learned as a nurse, questioning, how to pay attention, listening, my listening skills, always have been valued. It's been valued to me as a business owner. And again, it's that kind of that expertise mindset. And particularly in this environment, we don't respect that. And I think that's where is a big challenge with ageism, because somehow there's not the value of building that expertise and what that means. I'm not saying becoming an expert, because I'm an expert in one field does not mean I'm an expert in all fields and that I can speak to everything. And as a learning experience designer, I can tell you I've had multiple experiences with so-called experts, and they cannot tell me how they got to learn what they did, because they have built that over a period of time. And so, so that's kind of the addressing of aging. And I do totally agree. I mean, my business is 30 plus years. I have not worked for a company as an employee since the early 90s and have been running my business. The challenge is bootstrapping, and I know one of you was talking about, the challenge of looking for financing. I applied as a minority-owned business, and I actually had in the Rhode Island. So, and I actually had the gentleman who was on the committee, because they first denied my application, and he could not understand, because my husband was at the time part owner of the business, only because he was my back office, and so it made sense when we were incorporating. So I think that's one of the things I would warn people when you incorporate and who you have on your board and how you do it, because if you want to be a small, and I don't know if you talked about that, but I've always bootstrapped my business. And this gentleman could not understand, and he actually said this to me, how as a woman, I could bootstrap my own business. It had to be my husband. And they denied my woman-owned business application. You could have heard me screaming from Smithfield, across the state. That has since changed because we made some changes to our incorporation agreement. So I would tell you to warn how you form your organization may be really critical in how you are eligible for monies. But that's, you know, I mean, and I've done creative ways of bootstrapping. And so, but anyway, I stopped there. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Trudy. Yes, and I know there's the CWE to get woman certified in Rhode Island as well. I don't know if any of you have done that process here, and in other states, there's different ways to be certified. Yep, Anne Marie.
I've done the national one, and I've had to redo it because they changed the program, and it's fairly easy to do. And I will be going through the Rhode Island process. I did it previously in North Carolina where I was located, and that was super simple and quick. It seems like in Rhode Island you have to have a little bit more work to put in, but I am going to be diving into that next week. So if folks want to, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can clue everybody in how that process is. I'd be glad to share. I mean, I've gone through the federal system, getting the DUNS number and the SAM. So I have some experience with that. So I'm always happy to share that because it can be rather mind numbing. But it can be done without having to pay people to do it for you. So.
Trudy and Giovanna have your hands raised. And I also did want to give Teresa and Noreen an opportunity if you want to jump in, or Arena, those who haven't spoken as much, feel free to, pop in with anything. And I know Noreen, you help with funding as well. So, but Trudy and Giovanna, you took down your hand, but Trudy, go ahead.
So I just have one thing for this group and see what is the challenge. So you got a two-part problem. First is getting approved as a woman-owned business. Okay. That's number one. And it is not easy in Rhode Island. Having been denied the first time around and being the one who started the business, it just was unbelievable to me that it happened. But it was a paperwork issue. So that's number one, be careful. But what I see as a bigger problem, and in the 30 plus years I've been in business, and in the last 7 or 8 years, as officially of those 5 years as a woman-owned business, I have to be blunt. I don't see any value of being a woman-owned business. I don't see that I've ever gotten any more attention for it in terms of financing and anything else. And I think if you're going to do something for women's entrepreneurs, that you really do have to look at, and how do we generate the value that a woman-owned business brings to the table? Because I think only then, and as I said, now I'm in the ed tech world right now and heavily and deeply into it. And most of the people that I'm dealing with are male technologists. And there's actually even a study out, I think there's fewer than 10%. So I'm constantly facing this every day. I will see applications that give lip service, but I don't really see any value. And that's my question to this group is, how do you really address the value that the certification of a woman-owned business can bring to the table?
I can speak for myself on this one, not only a woman-owned business, but a woman of disability, because I see what you're talking about, Trudy, because, I had to prove myself as being a woman and doing what I do, but now being a woman of disability, everybody's like, who's really running your organization? Because you're disabled. You can't do that. And you know what I mean? Like, so you always feel like you have to be Wonder Woman, and you're always proving yourself, that you spend more time proving yourself and your worth than you do actually doing the work that you do, and getting yourself out there and actually making a difference. I find that a hard challenge to make, because I'm always having to break a new barrier, and I'm always having to prove, yes, I can do that. Yes, I am somebody to reckon with. Yes, I am a force to, to work with. And then doing my organization at the same time. Because I'll tell you, when people realize that they can join the disability community at any time, they would rather write their wills than donate and help out this community. Because it's easier to accept that than it is to accept to live in a wheelchair. I'll tell you, I have done far more from my wheelchair than I have ever done when I was out walking around. I have more to prove. I learned how to live. I don't put anything off anymore. And God put me here to make a difference for other people in my circumstances. But the SBA loans, because we're on SSDI, we couldn't even apply. So there are so many people of disability who own their own businesses because it was the only way that they could actually own a job that had to close because they couldn't survive, because they're on SSDI. They can't risk losing that because it's their only source of income, which isn't even a living wage. I mean, most people are getting $800 to $1,000 a month. Who can live on that normally? And then you try to keep your business up and surviving. Just because you put that you're on SSDI, you're automatically denied. So you can't get any of those business loans to help you. So a lot of them closed, which is really unfortunate because they were amazing businesses.
Great. That's great. Great feedback, Tina. And that's just tremendous because I think, and I think you highlighted another point that I found very interesting in the 30 plus years that I've been doing this, is that I see a lot of focus on starting a business and support for starting a business. But here's another gap, and I see, and that's growing the business. And I think you made a good point. And I can see some heads shaking. I think that's how do you get past, yeah, it's great that you can help me, do the paperwork and maybe get some of the things started and give me support. But and that's one of the gaps that I found. I mean, and I think it's not just for women-owned business. I think often that's a challenge for any business, what's the next great idea, that kind of thing. And everybody's always looking for the next shiny object to follow. And I've seen like some technology organizations that it just boggles my mind that they've been able to get funding. But it's more of that growth opportunity. So I think for a women's entrepreneur group, that's how can we support companies growing, not just starting, and how do we help? What's adding the value of being a woman-owned business or a woman with disabilities? Definitely, what is that challenge? And you're talking about, I know you guys may have already talked about it, but childcare. What about women who are in the sandwich generation, who are trying to take care of parents at home, as well as, bring up families? So I think there are a lot of women-related issues as business owners that you don't see other people dealing with.
It is, and it's so true that you say that, because like even all of the schools and stuff like that, my children both, there's nothing wrong with them. Like I said, I've only been in a wheelchair for 7 years, but both of my children were into cheerleading. I was their coach in football and stuff. I couldn't participate in a lot of their stuff at school because there was no access. They say children can't thrive in school without the parents' full participation. Well, how do I give my full participation when I can't get to their sporting events, or I can't get into the school, or I can't access the theaters that they're all part of? Like, they have to think of a family as a unit. It may not be the children that's, needs the support. It may be the family that needs the support, but it's still a family of whole.
I'd love for Noreen to jump in too with her thoughts. Oh, Giovanni, I know Noreen might have to leave in a few minutes.
Go ahead, Noreen. I can wait.
So just about the grants, I work particularly with Small Business Research Innovation Grant, which is a $3 billion federal grant. And what is fascinating about this grant, that compared to, as I said, like women receiving less money from venture capital, compared to this, actually federal government is pretty much interested in women founders. So even when we're submitting applications, there is a kind of 2 sections. Are you socially disadvantaged, or you are a female founder? So, and it's interesting to see that 11-12% actually women are granted this federal funding. And as a grant writer for many years, I think most important thing, and doesn't matter you are a woman or a man, I think as long as you can have a really very successful application and meeting the requirements of specific organizations, you really have a huge chance to win one of those grants.
Mm-hmm.
Have you secured grants for yourself, Noreen, or what your process of funding your own business?
No, actually, no. I actually help others to acquire grants. I don't apply for myself.
I guess, sorry, I haven't been very talkative, just taking in a lot of this. A little overwhelmed by all like the career experience you guys have. I'm a recent graduate and also just like finding my footing career wise. COVID really did turn on its head my career path. I had to come home from Madagascar, where I was previously working, to come and live at home with my parents after 6 years of living abroad and independence. So I had to do a lot of career rethinking. But I think with my startup, Meta Living, yeah, there was a lot of like internal things that I had to sort out, like personal stuff. The funding, I feel like it's a little bit contributed to like a little bit of burnout, because it's like, well, I need to keep this going, need to be consistent, but we're also like, my co-founder and I are stretching ourselves thin, like doing as much in our power to, keep going, keep publishing articles. Meanwhile, we don't not gain any revenue. So just it's taken a lot of learning and now networking again to figure out, what are other people doing or what makes sense for our business. So yeah, just doing a lot of listening. Yeah, grants are great. Learning you guys again, SBA grants are great. We didn't qualify, but hopefully in the future we can.
And Giovanna, you said you bootstrapped. I think that's how, a lot of people, farther along in their career, perhaps, or a few years, once you have a little bit saved up, then you might start investing in your own, or if you have other, so it's definitely, there's different ways to potentially get funding.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we start businesses, like we're not taught the nitty gritty. You usually have to have another stream of income to support you while you build a business. You don't just say, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to have all this revenue coming in. It just does not work that way. And, I just think one of the beautiful things about entrepreneurship is that we've created these ideas, these businesses out of nothing. So we have to create solutions as well. They're not going to give it to me, or they don't allow. We have to figure out how to get what we need in these systems. And I think Tina put it nicely earlier. We're not going to get everybody to the table, but our job as an entrepreneur is to figure out how do we get what we need and how do we help other people or other women who are like us get what they need, despite whatever obstacles are put up in front of you. I know, just being a Black woman coming from South Providence, impoverished area, father having issues, mother having issues, dysfunction, you can't let those things just define you or keep you in this box that other people want to put you in. It is a little bit more challenging, if you're not a white male running society, but all of us have challenges. Our job is to figure out, how do I solve my problems and then be able to help other people solve their problems. And for me, I spent a lot of time doing personal development, a lot of reading, a lot of working on Giovanna, because I do believe I am my business. I am. And if I'm not okay, then my business is not going to be okay. So just like for Arena, just starting out, the money's not going to just fall in your lap. People are not going to just give you loans, because a loan has to be backed by surety that you're going to be able to pay it back. Everybody wants a grant, everybody wants free money, but it's not always realistic. And sometimes, I worked in a daycare. I did a network marketing business while I started my company. I was a foster parent, so I had another stream of income coming in. We have to have something else coming in to support our business until we get to that revenue generating phase of it. And that typically takes 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years. It takes however long it takes, but we can't just let money be the defining factor of our success, or let money be the defining factor of our burnout. Because money is everywhere, and money comes from people. So the more you get around people and talking to people, then the more money is going to flow to you. So those are just some, thoughts that I had in listening to the conversation.
I think we need to get women on boards. I think we need to get women on boards where where there are investment decisions being made, because a lot of the funding comes from very male-dominated organizations. And there is also value in what I'm hearing all of you say, is being able to problem solve, being able to multitask. There's definitely, that is a skill, whatever your issues are, whether it's because you have young children, older parents, there's any number of challenges that women are particularly suited to managing, that is not that, and that we've grown up being told that's what we were going to do. Well, now we need to be able to translate that to business. So how do you get women on board? That's another, throw it out to the group, getting women on boards that are going to make the decisions and be able to recognize the strength of what a woman entrepreneur has to offer.
Board diversity is so essential, I think, and I've really wanted to see more women, more people of color, just differently able to have a voice in the boardroom, to be able to help drive the decisions. And also board members for corporations get paid. So I think there is definitely, to get to that point where we're investors rather than seeking investment. That's where I'd like to see everyone get elevated to that level, as well as rethinking the structure overall. That's something I think we've been built on a certain structure, and it may not work for future generations. So that's another conversation, I think, for a different group, perhaps, or this group.
Throw it out there, and please take it for what it is. But a lot of the times, one of the words, language is important. What we learn, especially because we want to have a positive interaction when we have with people. One word we never want to hear anybody use, especially in our thing, is handicap, because if anybody knows the origin of the word handicap, it comes from when the beggars used to sit outside with hand in cap. And then they just put that to the disabled. But the other one that we don't, and like I said, please take it for what it is differently abled. It's people of all abilities. It's first and purse language. It's people of all abilities, because to me, I mislabeled when you called me disabled, because yes, I utilize a wheelchair, but I can do as much as anybody else does. Yes, I do it differently, but I do what everybody else does. So just so you know, when you're talking to other people, to be better, it's people of all abilities is the better term to use, because all of us have a disability in some way, shape, or form. Just people who wear glasses, or people who are better at English and not math, or you know what I mean. So we all have our own ways. So we all have our own abilities that we are good at. So like I said, language is important, representation is important. So like I said, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't make that known. I'm sorry.
I really appreciate that, Tina, because I actually don't know differently. This, like, as not part of that community, I've heard it used, and similarly with people of color versus, it's very hard to know what language to use, and without someone in the room correcting or kind of giving your perspective.
The best way to know is to ask the person, how would you rather me refer to you? Because we all, like I said, I don't care what you call me, as long as you call me and include me. I honestly don't care. But the masses, that's a word that, like, I don't like the word ableism, because I don't want to call anybody else a name, because I don't want to be called a name. So to me, I'm the black sheep of the disabled family, because I don't like the word ableism, because we shouldn't be calling anybody names, but it should always be person first language and people of all abilities, and never use the word handicap, just because it's a derogatory term from the get-go. And it definitely doesn't. But that's the one word that everybody hates.
Well, I think I like the word, what Janice, when you're talking about diversity. I think it's the diversity of the group and whatever value, because I think, Tina, what you said was great, and that what we have to contribute to the group based on whatever ability. And it was interesting because I was attending a seminar and they were talking about neurodiversity in the workplace and how do you incorporate it. And I said, that's really great because we're moving away from that label of disabled to just someone who is diverse and maybe there's something different about what they are and who they are, but that does not make them less capable of being able to function in a workplace and in that environment. And so I like that, making us aware of what the language that we use.
Yeah,
I think it's so important.
And I think as we think about our own networks and who we're bringing into our own lives, are we including people of all abilities? Are we including people of diverse backgrounds and from all walks of life? And that's also something that might help Arena in terms of thinking of your own personal board of advisors. Who will you bring in to help you, who give you that advice, as well as your corporate board of advisors or your nonprofit board, if you have a nonprofit. How can you grow that yourself in a way that is inclusive? So that's, while we want to sit on more boards as well, I think, and represent and kind of give our voice elsewhere, also as we bring people into our own lives, are we thinking with a diversity mindset?
And Arena, if I could make a suggestion, I think, Janice, I loved what you just said, because if I had to go back and redo what I did, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was not right off the get-go having an advisory group that could provide, and in the initial stages of my business, maybe it would have been more functional. There would have been one person that was more marketing, one person that was, but having that group, and that's a mistake I made. I did not do that. And if I could go back and do something over again, I definitely would do that. I think, and then as you grow your business, the next level of advisory group is someone who can now help you make the connections and make the networking. And then I think then that advisory group grows as your business grows. But again, if I could give you one suggestion, which I did not do.
yeah. One advice that I would give everybody is be open to criticism and take it for a blessing. Like, number one, I say that disability didn't happen to me, it happened for me because it opened my eyes to look at things a different way. If somebody comes up to me and says, oh, you know what, you got great color in your logo, but maybe you should do this a little bit differently, or maybe everybody has their own strengths, and listening to other people, you know what I mean, will always make you better. That's why I always say Rhode Island always knows a guy. Listen to what other people are telling you. Don't be so standoffish. As long as it's presented to you in a right way, and you truly believe in the person that's presenting it to you, like if you know them to be good character, whatever, they're not just, you know what I mean, just moaning and groaning. Take their advice, take their ideas, and then take your strengths and bring it to their businesses as well. And that's why we're going to get through this all together, because we're going to lean on each other and we're going to help each other out, and we're going to be honest, and we're going to tell each other the pros and cons to everybody's business so we can make everybody succeed.
I love that, Tina. And I know we're coming close to the global summit, which starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I put a link up if you haven't registered for that or want to attend that. It goes from 2 to 4:30 with a breakout from 4 to 4:30. And I would love everyone to have a chance to just share, where would you like to see yourself in a year, and kind of where do you envision Women's Entrepreneurship Day to be next year? Like what would you like to see for this event in Rhode Island or for Rhode Islanders, as well as guests outside of Rhode Island next year? Teresa, would you be able to jump in first and share?
Oh, I guess just for myself, I'm hoping to reawaken a career in sustainability over the next year, and that would be that would be my personal goal over the next year. I don't know what my hopes and dreams would be for women entrepreneurship over the next year. Boy, I would say to succeed as a community whether it's inclusion or the strength of our social fabric, I would say that the community grows and blossoms.
I love that, building a community. Irina, what about you?
1 year from now, I didn't expect like the last year would turn out the way that it did. So I'm just now learning how to like be more intentional with my time and not just going with the flow. So there's still a lot to work on there, but yeah, strengthening my network. I'm all about building community, and I think like continuing to maintain relationships is something I'm continuing to work on. Hopefully a year from now, we can maybe be in person. I can, meet you guys in Rhode Island or continue virtually if I'm in Madagascar at that time. But I would love to, keep connected with you ladies and keep learning from everyone. Now and find ways that we can support each other's businesses, even if it's not like in the same scope, or how I can be an ambassador or bridge for everyone here.
Yeah, Amy, and then Trudy, Giovanna, Tina, we can wrap up with a minute each.
Okay, I'll go quick. I have learned so much and kind of looking for a lot of this knowledge anyway. So I have passed on a lot of things that I've said without, being credited or anything to some of my colleagues who are working on our curriculums. And, a lot of the issues that you have all brought up are things that we can address and are hoping to address with Innovation Studio. So please connect with me. Feel free to email me if my times on my calendar thing don't work. I'd love to meet with all of you independently and follow up.
Great. Thank you, Amy. And Giovanna, I know you have to jump soon, so why don't you go next and then we'll wrap up.
This was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So thank you, Janice, and your team for putting it together. So Irina mentioned the word intentional, and that was my word for 2021. And so my word for 2022 is alignment. So my goal is just to make sure that everything I do, all the people who are in my life align with where I'm going. I have some things that are not in alignment right now that I have to figure out. So by this time, next year, I want to just make sure that everything is going in the direction that I'm being intentional about aligning up. And just for next year, I just hope to see all of you still here, advocating and thriving and growing and having a different set of challenges. Not these same ones that we have this year, but just a different set, because it's always going to be a challenge. And hopefully I can attend in person if there's going to be an in-person one. I don't know where I'm going to be because I travel a lot, but I just hope to see all of you here and a new set of women that we can help to move forward through their entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you, Giovanna, and Trudy, and then Tina, and then we can wrap up.
Well, I already told you where I want to be in January. So that starts off the year, and it starts off on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th leg. Irina, don't give up. Okay. Please don't give up. I'm evidence of that, and it's exciting and it's an adventure. And yeah, there's some days when you're down and you're up. Again, that's where I see, I'd love to see this group really get into and some of those issues I think that are really the nitty gritty of where we need to be as women entrepreneurs, and hope that we can start to make some moves towards that. That would be phenomenal for me to be able to see that happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Trudy. And Lisa just jumped back in, but Tina, go first. And then Lisa, just say a few words on where you would like to see us in a year. Tina?
I would like to tell everybody, do not dwell on the negative and the things you can't change. Figure out a way to turn it into a positive and make it go ahead further. Where I'd like to see me personally is invited to all of your neighborhoods, towns, and meetings so I can open the eyes of people and change their perspectives and start opening all of your eyes to learning when you're going into a place. Is it accessible? Could I get in? Could I join you in those spaces and start changing the perspective of a lot of people? And where I'd like to see all of us is everything fully accessible, I know I'm not dreaming, but I would like to see it a heck of a lot more accessible so I can meet all of you wonderful ladies in person, and just roll in and join in and not have any special accommodations for anything.
Thank you, Tina and Lisa.
Oh,
Last
thanks.
few words.
Yes, sorry. Police, we had an Amazon package stolen yesterday, so police were on the called me. Watch your packages. But they, I'd like to work on, I'll just commit to this, just to really, I'm broad range with HR, so I want to really focus on the areas that I can, people can pass along and give me referrals and, help me out that way. But I'm really passionate about connecting other people. So please link in with me. I'd love to see for us all to be able to support each other. So I have almost 12,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I'm on it all day long because of the work that I do. So feel free to connect with me, and I'm happy to promote all of you and promote your businesses as well. I'd love to do that for a business, but not marketing like Janice says. Just do it. But I'd love to see us in person.
Yes, absolutely. I repeat everything everyone said. I would love to see all of you again, and I would love to see all of us elevated in a year from now to where we really are aligned and want to be, and kind of really grow this movement together. So I'm excited to jump onto the global call, and hopefully we'll see some of you there. Have a great rest of your afternoon and have a great weekend.
Thanks for doing this, Janice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. I appreciate you.